All right, here we go. So what's up, guys? So we're out here on another run. We're moving out here in Tropical Park, about to face, well, we already are facing the incredibly hot heat right out here in Miami, where it's like 80 something degrees and it feels like the hottest thing imaginable. So who cares though? We still got to do the same job. And what is it? It's run. Go out here and do our thing and run until our legs practically fall off. So I don't know about you, but buckle up and get ready for the ride. Here we go. So I always see a sign that says beware of alligators, and that reminds me of something called fear. Hello, be afraid, be very afraid. And not to mention, like, that sign itself is designed, to bring safety, right? To make you avoid something potentially very dangerous, an alligator, right? And for that reason, you can say that it's there for a right cause. It's there to prevent accident and injury, right? Because how necessary would it be for you to have to go in that area, swim, and do whatever you're trying to do, and put yourself in that danger ultimately, and potentially lose your life to some catastrophic injury, which you could say is a potentially useful use of the sign and a warning, right? It's like, beware of alligators, right? Beware of something potentially risky that you can easily avoid, right? And you can argue, right? It's like cost-benefit analysis, right? What's the cost of you going out and swimming in that lake, right? And getting in that water, right? The cost of that is potentially getting attacked or mauled or eaten alive by an alligator, which probably wouldn't be the funnest experience for you, especially if you're like me and you want to be using your body every day in the gym, working out, running, juggling, whatever you want to do, or playing soccer like that guy, or running, whatever he's doing. But you get it, right? You want to be able to use your body and not subject it to unnecessary risks. So for that reason, we start to think about the idea of fear. What is it? When is it useful to us? When is it not? When can we ignore it? And when can we actually embrace it and follow its lead? Because that's what it is. That's what it comes down to. It's essentially an emotion, in our amygdala, in our emotional center of our brain. That's where it originates. That's where it comes from. Fear. Whatever it may present itself as to you. The physical signs. When your palms are very sweaty, right? You're nervous. You have your heart beats fast. You're worried about something that could happen to you in the future, or maybe something that sets you in that state, something that caused you that fear. And what you got to think about is whether or not that fear is actually practical, whether or not you should actually take heed of that fear and understand that there's a real risk that we gotta take, that we got to acknowledge, and change around and move around. Right? That's not to say that we have these trees here. If we were afraid of these trees, what we do, we'd run away scared, and in fear, because you can rationalize easily that it would be pretty bad if you ran into those trees, if you bumped into them, if there's ants on those trees or bugs that you may come into contact with, upon touching those trees. So for that reason, one might learn to fear them, to fear, that tree and coming across with it. So what would they do? Woo! And our voice cracked because we are starting to get the breathing down here. And you would essentially, avoid it. You turn into a scaredy cat. And that's not to say, that's the worst thing in the world. You don't always want to think like that, because what if that tree presented a real danger to you, to your life, to your family's life, to whoever's around you, not only yourself, because that's what you got to take into account. Because some of you are making a living off of your body, are making a living off of what you can do with your body, and you got to work out, and you got to be able to look in the best shape that you can, because you're a trainer or someone in the fitness industry or modeling industry, whatever industry that requires that look, and that's understandable. So you don't want to be afraid of hurting yourself, especially hurting your body. So for that reason, you got to be aware. You got to learn to work with that fear, to learn to properly acknowledge that feeling and understand if it's guiding you in the right place. And if it is, it can be the best thing in the world. You can train forever, pretty much. You can go about your daily business knowing that you made the right decision, that you're guided by a light that's leading you in the right direction. And as shocking as that may be, it's that fear. So a lot of you, when you think of fear, you think it's something to be avoided, something detrimental. And I'll tell you this, I don't think so. I think that there's a time to be fearful and a time to not. You gotta learn how to make that fear your friend. You can't block it off completely. You can't necessarily ignore it, because it's there for a reason. It's part of your body's natural makeup, its natural emotional system, because it's there to protect you. It's there to help you survive, because why else would it be there? So for that reason, it can help you right within your daily life. And that's not to say that system was designed for when we were living in those prehistoric times where we had to go and survive and hunt for food and avoid predators. Like the big bear in the middle of the jungle, and those big monsters or dinosaurs or whatever we had to face at that time. And to avoid those, or coming across those creatures who can potentially cause great bodily harm to us and our families, we developed a sense of fear. It became almost a radar of sorts to help us detect and avoid coming across those beings, which is great if you want to be able to survive and put yourself in the best position to eat, which is what you want to do. And in this world, that fear can be used for the right reason. I say, you come across someone toxic in your workplace, or on the street when you're walking, and you get that hunch, that feeling to avoid them. And let's see, you see right here, we gotta cross someone getting fear of getting hit by a car, and that's okay, because that fear, we know, is gonna save us. It's gonna prevent us from getting hurt by a car, which can potentially kill us, right? It could hurt us very badly. It's not gonna hurt the car very much. the car hits us, but it's gonna hurt us. It's gonna make our day pretty bad. So you can say even that the person in the car isn't probably gonna be as scared as I am, you know, not being in the car. But you can also learn another thing, a higher consciousness of sorts, at a higher level of thinking. You know, when you're in that car and you got to think about that person in the street, you know, you feel their fear. You understand, you know, what they're experiencing, right? Because they see you in this big car driving fast and they're worried, right? They see the risk, and you got to understand them understanding the risk, right? It sounds kind of complex and confusing, but you know, you got to, you know, it's a very helpful, you know, way of understanding. It almost makes you wiser in a sense, you know, being able, you know, and you can even apply this as a boss, right? You're in charge of the company. You're in the corner office, that big suite at the top, you know, of the building, and at 11 o'clock you have a meeting with the client, right? Or you have a meeting with someone, you know, a clerk or someone below you in ranking in the office, and you notice them walk in, you know, with their head down, shoulders facing downward, poor body contact, body language, not contact. But what you got to realize is you got to understand the fear that they have, right? Because they might be afraid to mess up in front of you. They don't want to look bad. They realize the power that you have. Just like the car, the people in the cars over here, they have power, right? They have the power to go, you know, to up to 100 miles if they wanted to. God forbid they don't speed, but they have the potential to do that. I don't. And they have, you know, all those thousands of pounds of metal and steel in those tires, you know, to give them that potential power. And because I don't have that, I should feel fear. And that's not bad, right? You don't want to fear the fear, right? Even though I forget which president says this, but the only thing we have to fear is fear itself. Yes, that's understandable if you're going about your business and you want to be the most confident person you can be, but you got to understand and acknowledge that that fear is there. So when you're in that office meeting and you're on the lower position, right, and you're talking to the higher ups and you feel that tugging in your skin that tells you this moment is big, I gotta look great, I gotta impress this boss, because if I don't, I probably won't get the raise that I wanted or the promotion, whatever you want from it. So guess what? That'll come to you as fear. And what you gotta do is you can't let it paralyze you. You gotta acknowledge that it's there and you gotta step up, right? Because say you push that fear aside and you ignored it in a sense, and you went to that meeting like whatever, like you didn't care. That boss is probably gonna see that within you. You know, he's gonna see, or she is gonna see that you don't really care about what's going on around you. You don't understand the moment, right? Because that's a big thing. Is fear is a present moment thing. You don't want to fear things in the future. That's not good. But when you have that fear there, you gotta know what's up. It tells you what's up. It's like the postman knocking on your door to give you this big package to let you know that something big has arrived at your doorstep. That boss has arrived, and you got to show up, because if you don't, it's not going to end well for you. So the take-home message from this is that don't block out fear. Acknowledge its presence and realize that you have two options whenever you feel scared or fearful. You either got to let it take over, which is bad. You don't want to do that. Don't let it paralyze you. or acknowledge it's there. You know, say, hey, fear, what's up? I see you. Thank you for coming. And that's what you gotta be. You gotta be thankful that it's there, because it's a messenger. It's letting you know what's happening. And from that, you gotta show up. So you have that meeting, you have that fear there, and guess what you do? Before that meeting even starts, you show up in the nicest suit you can imagine. Hair all combed and gelled and everything, clean shaven, and you show up, you know, with a note sheet with questions to ask that boss about what is going on, right? In the workplace, you know, how, and you research how to make more revenue, more income for the company. Figure out what the boss wants, because that's what's important to you. You have to do it. You know, this is not some regular meeting with another one of your coworkers, because if it was, you won't have that fear that you do when that boss shows up. So when that boss shows up, you show up, you kill that thing. And you could even admit, right, what's bad about being a little bit honest and saying, hey, I'm a little bit nervous, you know, this is a big moment. And your boss, believe it or not, might actually appreciate that, because you're honest, right? You understand what's going on right now, and it might actually make them feel good. It flatters them, because it tells them that they're in a higher place than you, that you understand what's going on and the importance of the moment, and you want to do your best, and that's exactly what they want you to do. So from that, be fearful, but be fearful with a purpose.